welcome. My name is Ivo Holbitz. I'm the Senior Curator of the Museum. I'm going to introduce John Newstaden. John, briefly, was born in the Netherlands, came to Canada with his family at a young age, 6, living in Windsor. He had, and I didn't know this, he had a brief and exhausting career as an elementary school teacher, art teacher, and went to studied informally, well, non-degree at Ontario College of Art, then did degrees at the University of Windsor, and then Tulane University in New Orleans. It is New Orleans, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sounds better than saying New Orleans.
Yeah.
He's been exhibiting in solo and group exhibitions, nationally and internationally, since, I'm going to say the early 70s, 73 maybe, 74?
Correct.
Yeah, right, okay. And has lived and worked across Canada, in Toronto, in Newfoundland, in Priceville, which is between Durham and Flesherton, and for 20 years was living and working in Regina, where he was a professor at the University of Regina, and now living in Hamilton. So welcome to Hamilton. I've also known John for some time, and in our informal discussions, things that we don't know, he told me that his, and the first time I met John, I had just started working at the Art Gallery at Harbourfront, which is now a power plant, and John came in with I'm not sure how to describe it. It was a proposal to do, I guess, performative conceptual proposal to do a skywriter drawings over Toronto. And he had a set of drawings in the portfolio, beautiful drawings of these kind of skywriter configurations. But I didn't know until a few days ago that his thesis at Tulane was the skywriter drawings as a conceptual program, as a conceptual proposition that is written, typewritten, but not visualized or, at that point, actualized. So a few years later, they became actualized, although perhaps in an ephemeral, experiential way. That is, if you didn't know what was going on, you would see it and then attempt to understand what you were experiencing. And that's my little lead-in to my invitation to John to work in this space. John?
Yeah. So what he or didn't tell you, which is sort of intriguing to me, is that I was born in Amsterdam in '45. This is when the bombs were falling. And I was born on Andromeda Street. Now that's a coincidence, because I didn't find this out until about 14 years ago, until my sister told me that that was the name of the street. And it's so funny that you're doing all this stuff with the universe. Anyway, let me move right into my talk. What I would like to do, I don't want to be a professorial academic type anymore, but I do have some stuff that I need to share with you that I think is important. And one of the things was my very short talk at the opening of the exhibition. I'd like to reiterate it for you if you don't mind, and then I'll get to some juicier stuff. So the show is called Sterrenstof, and it's the Dutch word for stardust. And that's significant. So mathematics and stardust define both our universe and Sterrenstof. Each panel here contains 108 lines. Now the number is important. 1 represents unity, 0 represents the void, and 8 represents infinity as the symbol. So this diptych is an abstract representation of what makes us human. The exhibition has changed the direction of my practice. With subject matter harvested from all manner of historical and current astronomy information and media, these investigations are informed by intuition, theories of the universe, photomechanical mediation, and material transposition, metals, carborundum, titanium, meteorite particles, carbon, ash, animal bone, acrylic, and oil paint. The artwork is a dance in which stardust reveals existential echoes. You have just experienced 108 words, which is the number of lines in each one of these panels. Anyway, that was my introduction to the work. So the number 108 has astronomical origins. The distance between Earth and Sun is 108 times the Sun's diameter. The distance between Earth and Moon is 108 times the Moon's diameter. The diameter of the Sun is 108 times Earth's diameter. Now, these aren't coincidences. There's something going on with that number. It was a coincidence for me when I decided these paintings should be 9 feet high and 7 feet wide. And in my experiments, I actually made small samples of the pieces. And I introduced the material into the work. All the materials I mentioned a minute ago. It's all embedded in there and in there. So there's more. Silver has an atomic weight of 108. There are 108 beads on a Hindu or Buddhist mala, or the beads, the prayer beads. 12 months times 9 planets is 108. There are 108 body positions in yoga. And, this is profound, there are 108 stitches on an American baseball. Coincidence? Yes, for sure. But it's so interesting that I selected the height that I did select, which is 9 feet. And the height was based on a comfortable height for my painting wall in the studio, and the width of 7 feet for all 3 pieces is what I could just squeeze through my church doors. I have a studio, which is a converted church, and it goes right through the 2 front doors at an angle. And that's why they're the sizes they are. What I would like for you to do, if you're willing, is if there's a thought you have, interrupt me. I don't have a huge ego. I'm really malleable and I'm a nice guy. I won't chew you up. So, Thinking Space is a title of other bodies of work, and it implies thinking about outer space, thinking about pictorial space, and thinking in the studio. And I called a couple of my pamphlets Thinking Space. So I make things that incite thought. To get that started, I'm going to pass this around. It is rubber bumpers mounted over an aluminum cube that's been painted. It's been painted in the style of Star Wars aircraft from the movie. When my kids were young, I took them, right? And we saw that movie ad nauseum at home. So I started actually finishing the metal as it was worn, as it showed in the movie. So the work is for you to think about. I'll pass it around. Please feel free to fondle it, pass it around, and think about it. And later on, I'll tell you what my thoughts were. So here are those thoughts about thinking. Shakespeare said, in his wonderful piece, Much Ado About Nothing, beauty is a witch. And the quote makes reference to the saying that an enchanting beauty is a definition. Basically, it means that if you trust deeply, your trust could be broken. And this is about love, of course. Beauty is an enchantress. A witch is a person with magic powers. A witch also happens to be an edible North Atlantic flatfish. This is completely irrelevant, but it helps with the talk. So beauty is in a way a witch because it's elusive, it's seductive, it makes you swoon, or it can repulse you at the same time. So beauty may not necessarily be beautiful or pretty, but it is sublime. Sternstoff is work at the edge, where the existential poetics of beauty are most frightening, most beautiful, and most sublime. These are the things I have written down in my journal that I keep while I'm working. But I've printed them so I could read them properly. Most sublime, wow, beauty, yeah. I think this is exquisitely beautiful. You don't have to. But in my process, I am completely involved with beauty. And beauty changes. The diptych also invites comparison. And I speak about the similarity of difference and the difference of similarity. It's almost like two identical twins. And the pieces are reflections and meditations on stardust theorems. The most common one that we all know is like that song from quite a while back, We Are Stardust. Joni Mitchell did it too. There's another a group of young men that did it. I've forgotten who they are, but we are stardust. The theorem states that interstellar dust came down and is scattered all over the planet, and it's constantly doing that. Actually, I just bought a shop magnet on wheels. It's 18 inches wide and it has a handle. And I'm into the habit of collecting stardust, in other words, meteorite dust. And this thing is 18 inches wide and I can slide it along the beach or on farmland and it will pick up anything metallic. It'll get nails, but it will also pick up stardust or meteorite dust. Fascinating. I haven't even tried it yet. I assembled it before I came. Stardust theorems. The latest one I heard is that there was a giant chunk of Mars that came loose and ended up somewhere landing on Earth, and suddenly this is what they call panspermia. So Earth was seeded by interstellar dust, and by chance there happened to be a bit of water and the other chemicals were present, and suddenly you have a little tiny cell, and that evolved into who we are and all the animals and everything else too. That's the theorem. Now here we have an interesting theory that actually talks about Adam and Eve. Adam would be the interstellar dust from the universe, and Eve would be Mother Earth, who receives the dust and then spawns an offspring. Wow, crazy. Anyway, the works have been a process of reimagining what a painting can be. It's an inquiry that has turned painting inside out for me, because I've never embedded so much stuff inside the paintings. I've only embedded paint inside the painting, never ash or meteorite dust or carborundum, any of that great stuff. Anyway, it's an inquiry that turned painting inside out. And here I suggest that painting is a witch. Flatness and spare modeling with paint are syncopated. I really love flatness in this work. I love the flatness there too, but that flatness actually has a traditional illusion of space. There is no illusion of space here. These are painted objects, 7 by 9 feet, painted with a whole bunch of paint, acrylic and oil paint, which is the final coat. But painting has also become a ceremony. The very act of standing for an hour or 2 hours at a time with a tube of, by the way, Williamsburg oil paint. Williamsburg is made by the people that do, the acrylic. Oh, I've forgotten the name. Golden. Thank you. Who did that? Thank you. Yes, Golden Paints. They make Williamsburg paint out of New York State as well, real close to Manhattan, in Jersey. And Williamsburg is considered to be the world's best oil paint. And it should be for the price, right? But, you know, I spare no cost. This is art. Why would I want to cheap out when my works are ending up in collections and museums? It's not fair. You have to have integrity. So I bought the best paint that I could find, and I would stand here and paint for hours, squeezing paint onto my brush. And it's a 1-inch brush. Remember? 108 inches. So I use a 1-inch brush and I squeeze it systematically. There are 2 coats of oil on this, and 2 coats of acrylic, and 3 coats of primer. The primer contains all my goop, all my stardust. The oil paint does not contain it, but if you look at the work, you'll find that there are really interesting little lumps and bumps, and they certainly are covering up a piece of some of the stuff that I've embedded. So painting has become a ceremony. It takes time. It's a wonderful thing to do. It's sort of Zen in its own peculiar way. The space in Stahrenstoff is not traditional. I prefer the space that your mind travels when you are experiencing and perceiving the work. The space that your mind travels is the space that I claim as the space of the work itself. Non-traditional. And the works allude to a tableau of experience with imagistic suggestions. So there's no actual space here, but this stuff alludes to things such as a reliquary. If you've been to the Vatican, you'll see all these wonderful glass jars emblazoned with jewels and gold, and you'll see the right forefinger of St. Matthew sitting in this little jar, right? That's a reliquary. This is like a reliquary. Or a repository. One can look at this as a waterscape if you think moonlight on a lake at midnight. It also has a direct reference to the tilled fields in the Holland Marsh in early spring, where the ground is black with water and fluid. And it is like Jim and Pat Tanner's farm, which is remarkably flat. And they have like 900 acres of land in Saskatchewan. And when he tills it, it is beautifully flat and it's ridged. And it looks very much like this when it's moist. It also speaks of multiple horizons. So the works harbor overlapping and multiple references to the human condition, while it also addresses our collective destiny. Blackness does that. The ivory black oil paint, ivory black, that is interesting because the ivory in oil paint is actually animal bone that's burned. It's to a state of carbon. That evokes existential poetics. Well, imagine how many animals died to get me all this paint. How many cows we have eaten that got me the bones to make this paint. Through Williamsburg oil paint, of course. And black has a phenomenal capacity to capture light. And on these two pieces, light is a fleeting illumination because as I move around, the highlights of light change and they flip around. And they actually start to become constellations that are constantly changing. That fascinates me. So how can black paint start to represent the universe is a great question that I keep asking myself. Despite carefully chosen conceptual parameters, the work does remain enigmatic. I can't explain this work. Ihor can explain it better than I can, because he's not attached to it in the same way that I am. But no, I can't explain it because this is due to painting's ability to capture more than can be anticipated. And painting has always done that. Sculpture does it too. So does drawing. Content is a witch. So these restrained linear surfaces deliver an exuding calmness that is ethereal. It's so graceful and quiet. And it's also elegiac. In the scheme of time on the planet, the ash contained reveals the trace of a human movement and a human moment. Time is a witch. Stardust reveals a profound connection that exists between everything in the universe. Everything that we are looking at now has its origin in stardust, including our bodies and our biological systems, the concrete. Certainly my paint and the canvas that it's on. So this exhibition examines our place in the universe, and it also presents a personal sense of urgency that I feel to connect with the incomprehensible. The works are invigorated, all three of them, by actual stardust. And therefore, it draws abstraction into a complex dialogue with the final and last sublime. That sublime is the moment of death. And it's here in this painting. I want to point out that the stars that are drawn and painted here are taken from all manner of astronomy books and texts, and NASA photographs play a huge part in my work. So I can explain a couple of these. This is from the Peterson Guide to the Stars, and they are super inflated. In the Guide to the Star, that's Guide to the Stars booklet, which is a handbook. That image of a star is probably 0.5 millimeter in size. It's a tiny dot. And when I super enlarge them with my photocopier in the studio, they start showing these incredible patterns. Right? So that's what I'm doing. I'm super enlarging these objects. This is a comet. This is an image of some of the farthest galaxies that the Space Telescope has photographed over a period of hours and days, if not weeks. Somebody told me it was 10 days of constant looking at that little spot And that's all they could get, was a little blob of light. It's the farthest thing that we've ever photographed. So this fascinates me. There's something else in here. I have to find it. Yeah, this one. This is from the Cambridge Guide to the Stars. This one is from the 1800s. That one, right up there, is from the 1500s by an astronomer called Peter Apian. That's how he drew the star that he saw through his looking glass in his drawing. The dots are the mechanical process of reproducing it. So what I've done is I have collapsed time by using images that are from all centuries of art and art history as well, right? And scientific study. The other thing I've done is I've collapsed time in a different way. This came out of Robert Burnham's book. I need to show you the book. I brought it with me. Being a good elementary school teacher, I have props. In other words, I have proof. So here you go. This is the Burnham book I found in a used bookshop, and there are these what they call finder charts, maps of photographs based on things that he was looking at in the universe. So I bought the 3 volumes. Each one has 27 maps like this. And my concept was to take those maps and superimpose them. Like they're superimposed in the book. They're sitting one on top of the other here. I've done that. I have 17 maps here. You know there are 17 by the number of circles. Each map has a circle and a center point that he was looking at. That's one right there. And you'll find there's a circle for that. So what I have done is I have collapsed historic astronomy time. And there's a reason for it. The collapsing of time here from the book means that I've taken the stars that he could see and put them all into one picture. That's what's going to happen 4 billion years from now when we see that the Milky Way and the Andromeda Galaxy are going to collide, and they'll vaporize us unless we're not here anymore. But that's what's going to happen, and that's what I'm trying to present as a facsimile of that event. This is our collective destiny as a universe, not just our collective destiny. It's the last sublime, when everything is going to be vaporized and made into fresh stardust, so other things can start being seeded. So that's the intent behind this work. And yes, you'll find little lumps and bumps on the surface, and that's animal bone, and that's carborundum, stardust. I actually bought a meteorite and ground it down to get the metal dust and stick it in the paint. Right? So it has this sense of authenticity. I'm talking about the real thing, which is encapsulated inside the paint. Yes?
Are you transferring these images on, or you're just looking at the material and drawing them? It has such a printed feel. I mean,
It does, yeah.
graphic.
Yeah. Okay,
Beyond that.
thank you so much. That's a really good point. I was focusing on printmaking in an undergraduate and my graduate. So I'm very graphic. I love linear things. I love contour drawing. I love that obsessive, compulsive quality in drawing. So these are actually projected with my obsolete 3M projector and transparencies. And then I paint them as accurately as I possibly can. So I'm interpreting, as you know, where is reality? I don't know. These are interpretations of stars. But yeah, they're very graphic. I love the look and feel of graphic imagery. This exhibition examines our place in the universe and a personal sense of urgency. I have constructed a realm of elusive enchantment in these three works by sharing with you my experience about time, place, future, and imminence, what's going to happen. And therefore I say, the universe is a witch. Interpreting the universe connects me to my humanity, to my humanness. Because everything in the universe is what we are and what I am. Then I ask you the big question, is a representation just as good as reality? It's redundant. This points to that question, what do we want to think is real? And my work quietly highlights the inherent flaws of subjective interpretation that I was talking about there. But in the end, in one sentence, what I'm interested in doing is that I create poetic fictions about our place in the cosmic neighborhood. They are fictions based on scientific document and all the information available to me and to all of us. Ask me. Where's my lumpy thing? Thank you. Thank you for holding it. This is a sculptural work that was intended to be tossed towards the moon by an astronaut during the spacewalk. Right? So theoretically, this thing, when they're walking in space, if they throw it hard enough, it should keep going. It won't, because gravity will pull it, suck it down back to Earth, but then it becomes a meteorite, a shooting star. How cool is that? All right? But I haven't been able to accomplish it. I did contact Marc Garneau, the Canadian astronaut. I never got a response. Yeah? But it's still an interesting idea. And you know, sometimes ideas themselves are so beautiful, they don't need to be executed. So whenever I see this in the studio, I have that same little dream again. It's still alive. Will it happen? I don't know. Something else about this thing that is so bizarre. It's a cube. It's square. One of my reasons for building it was to protect perfection. So these are industrial bumpers that you find on food handling equipment and hospital gurneys. Gurneys or Guernseys?
Gurneys.
Gurneys, okay, yeah. All right, yeah. Anyway, so that's where they are. It's a square, but this thing becomes magic. It rolls like a ball. But it's a square. Yeah, you know, it would become a whole different thing if it were realized. And I wish it were possible. One of the astronomy people at the University of Regina where I taught told me that it would probably cost $800,000 to get this up there. You know, just to move this thing and then have somebody take the time to do that. Yeah, you're right. Ask me anything you want to know. I'm 68. All right. Yes, thank you. I did read that and I left it out. I didn't have enough time for it all. Please. Yes, and there's another bell in China, I think, that has 108 dots on it for the 108 things that we have to overcome. Yeah, it's Tibetan. It's coming back to me. It's Tibetan. And there are 108 things that humans have to overcome to achieve nirvana or perfection. Yeah. It's a fascinating number. I came across it by accident. It was unintentional. So by that, I keep saying, it's an accident. Not really. Intuition is the best tool in your art toolbox. If you could only trust your intuition, then things will be fine. It's when this thing starts thinking and gets in the way, which it also has to do, that your intuition gets overpowered. Yes, it is restful. Yes. But I think the sense of urgency that I feel is what one of the doctors at Princess Margaret Hospital said to my wife when she was dying. And he told her that she was experiencing existential fears. She was having this existential suffering, right? So I have an existential fear. And that's based on the fact that I'm 68. I have high blood pressure, a bit of arthritis. So, so my urgency is about continuing to do more work and doing the best work I can do in the time that I have left. Yeah. Is this going to be a marker? I don't know.
Like a signifier that it could be this.
Yeah, it is a signifier. Yeah. Now, whether or not other generations will see it that way, I can't control. And you can't control, we can't control. Art history and time will decide if this has value enough to become a cultural marker of some kind. Hopefully if it gets into a museum, then it automatically is a cultural marker by decisions that are made to bring it into the museum. All art, yeah. Music, performance, it all does it. We come to it with our set of knowledge and experience on the planet. And as you know, the more experience we get, the more we're able to achieve that insight into the artwork of any kind. I had a professor at university that told the group that your God is your ultimate concern. Whatever your ultimate concern is, becomes your God. So artwork, really, that's my ultimate concern. Am I religious? I used to be. I was raised in a Roman Catholic environment. I was an altar boy. I was actually spent one day at the seminary and couldn't stand it. And then started dating girls again. Anyway, I think, am I religious? People say that I am because of what I'm looking at and thinking about. But I personally am not a churchgoer, although this is the second church I've owned and used as studio. It's a perfect place in which to make artwork, I find. I find it really gripping. Not that there's magic in there, but I think the space itself, actually my church is a little bit larger, my studio is a little bit larger than this space. So it's perfect for me. And we live downstairs in the church hall. And we want to be upstairs in the studio. The church hall is strictly there for our convenience. You sleep and you eat and then can't wait to get upstairs. I'm done.
Well, thank you, John.